Sidar Jabari was a man of purpose. Born into nobility in the rich sun-soaked lands of Jalfir, he could have lived a life of comfort and philosophy, a path open to those with sharp minds like his. But Jabari wasn't one to sit idle, pondering the nature of life while others fought to preserve it. He chose instead to lead. He chose to act. And in Jalfir, action meant war. The Mirage Wars came upon Jalfir like a slow tide, then a crashing wave. Kayavek, a name that burned in the memories of all who lived through those times, sought power and dominion at any cost. He wasn't a man to reason with. He was a storm to be weathered, a beast to be hunted. Jabari saw this clearly. He rose to prominence not just because of his birthright, but because of his clarity, his resolve, and his unflinching belief that Zhalfir would endure. He became Sidar, a general, the leader of Zhalfir's largest and most disciplined army. Jabari wore his silver armor like a second skin. It gleamed in the sunlight, a symbol of Zhalfir's resilience, and on his head sat a red-winged helm. He was a figure out of legend, and yet he remained grounded. Jabari wasn't one to speak in flowery words or give empty speeches. His men followed him because he didn't just give orders, he lived by them. He was sharp, deliberate and fair, qualities that made him both a brilliant strategist and a diplomat when the moment called for it. The war against Kayavek was brutal. It wasn't just armies clashing on open fields. It was cities burning, families fleeing, and soldiers dying in the thousands. Jabari's finest moment came when Zhalfir's capital city, Tefemburu, stood on the brink of collapse. Sidar Muigo had fallen at Ufungur, and hope was a fragile thing, but Jabari didn't waver. He took command and rallied his forces. With the help of Hakim of Sukata and other allies, Jabari turned what seemed like certain defeat into a decisive victory. Kayavek's primary army was destroyed, and the people of Tefemburu were saved. The soldiers called it a miracle, but Jabari didn't believe in miracles. He believed in preparation, ingenuity, and the courage of those willing to fight for something greater than themselves. Even after Kayavek's defeat, the land wasn't at peace. The remnants of his armies, undead abominations, and Viashino marauders roamed the countryside. Jabari led his men against these threats, driving them back and restoring a fragile sense of order. Yet even as the dust settled, he knew the horizon held more danger. Zhalfir was a land of strength, but it was also a land marked by destiny. The first whispers of the Phyrexian invasion began to creep into the edges of thought, and Jabari prepared himself and his forces for what would come. Then Teferi phased Zhalfir out of existence. It wasn't an act of malice, but one of desperation. To save Zhalfir from the Phyrexian threat, Teferi used his immense power to remove the entire nation from reality. For the rest of Dominaria, Zhalfir was lost, but within the phased-out lands, time passed differently. To the Zhalfirans, it felt like only a decade had gone by. When Teferi returned, seeking answers to the new Phyrexian invasion threatening the multiverse, he found Zhalfir still standing, still strong. The people hadn't faltered, they hadn't given in to despair. And there was Jabari, as steady as the mountains, still preparing for the invasion they had been removed from. The reunion was not without complications. Kayavek, long thought imprisoned, had somehow escaped his amber prison. The old threat loomed again, adding fuel to the fire of an already dire situation. Jabari met Teferi with the same measured demeanor he brought to all things. He was not one to dwell on what had been lost or what could not be changed. He saw only what lay ahead, a chance to fight, to lead, to defend Zhalfir as he always had. When General Magetta was injured, Jabari took full command of the army. His sharp mind and steady hand were exactly what Zhalfir needed in the face of such monumental threats. The battle against the Phyrexians was unlike anything Jabari had faced before. These weren't mere men or beasts. They were a force of corruption, a blight on the very fabric of existence. Yet Jabari didn't falter. He led Zhalfir's flying knights into the fray, their wings cutting through the skies like blades. It was a sight to behold, a testament to Zhalfir's unyielding spirit. In the end, Jabari was not just a man of war. He was a man of hope, a symbol of what Zhalfir could be. He didn't fight for glory or power. He fought because it was what needed to be done. And in that, he found purpose. The world around him could change, Allies could come and go, but Jabari remained. In silver armor and a red-winged helm, he stood as a reminder that even in the darkest times, there are those who will fight for the light.